Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today's video is going to be kind of a mixed bag, if that makes sense. We've got a lot of little things to do, but it doesn't really add up to one video, like whether it's a project on the Corvette, the LT4, my toolbox. So it's going to be kind of a smorgasbord of everything. So let's just kick this off right away. And what we're doing right now is organizing our Milwaukee batteries. You guys can see our mobile paint booth right here set up, and this is from SKG Fire and Steel. It's going to hold M18 and M12 batteries. You guys can see there's basically 4 of each, and that will go into our Harbor Freight toolbox, the US General, and it's basically going to put it somewhere over here. Haven't quite figured out where that's going to go, but because honestly guys, I think I've got 4 of each, maybe 3 of each, something like that. But so needless to say, I've got a lot of batteries. They take up a lot of space, and I wanted a better way of organizing that. And that's actually my second set of SKG Fire and Steel brackets. The brackets that are holding up these chargers, that is also from that company. And I bought those probably, I don't know, 6 months to a year ago. And I basically did the same thing. You know, I put some primer on the metal, hit it with some base coat, and then I covered it up with SEM trim black. So that's the same exact thing we did here. You guys can see it's black in color. You might be able to see some copper over here on the jack stand. And so yeah, that's basically what we did, because I have a lot of miscolored paint, 1K paint from the old truck that we had, the Duramax. And yeah, so they sent us a copper color like 2 or 3 years ago. Actually, probably like 4 or 5 years ago, because it's been a while. So yeah, so we're going to go ahead, get this bracket installed onto the back of the toolbox somewhere, and let's just organize our batteries. All right, and here you go. Simple reorganization of all of our batteries. So we've got 7 batteries here. I thought I had another M12 battery, but apparently I've only got those 2. So yeah, the SKG Fire and Steel bracket just slid right into the back, you know, this pegboard that comes with the US General toolbox. And honestly guys, this is plenty of height to get our batteries in and out. The bigger battery is a little tight, I'll admit that, but you know, if you just take your time, grab it, put it back, you're good to go. We could slide this down one, but honestly at this point it's not impacting this all that bad. So I think we're just gonna leave it where it is. Changing gears over to the LT4, had a bunch of parts, basically gaskets come in from Rock Auto. This is, we'll show you that in a second, but we got our oil pan in our front and maybe even the rear cover gasket maker. We got our front seal. We've got some oil pan O-rings. These are going to be the valve cover seals. And then this is going to be the valley cover seal. Well, I would be able to go ahead and install that valley cover for the last time, but unfortunately, between opening the parts over a year ago and then installing them, I somehow misplaced the Texas Speed and Performance, basically the little billet adapter that goes from here, it plugs into right here, the top of this port, that goes into the bottom of the supercharger. Then there's also a set of O-rings that comes with the kit as well, and that goes into the bottom of the valley cover. Well, unfortunately, I don't have those. So I have an order placed with Texas Speed, and that is supposed to ship. They processed the order January 7th. I think today's like the 14th, so I haven't heard anything. But what I need to do is get this wire harness cleaned up right here. This is the one that plugs into the oil pump. We're going to clean this with electronics cleaner. We're not going to use brake cleaner, because honestly, brake cleaner can break down plastic, and I've ran into that more than once recently. So we're just going to use some electronics cleaner, clean this harness up, take that front cover off, get this swapped over, and we may even put the front cover gasket in as well. All right guys, you can see we got the cover popped back off. It is a 13mm bolt. You will see that I have put the wiring from the OEM cover on the inside here. So there's a clip here, there's a clip there. You need to feed this brown clip and then this wire harness through there. This, I believe, is what's going to connect to our oil pump. So that all has to feed through there, and that clips in, goes to this sensor right here. And that basically, it might just be a pass-through. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, so basically that just locks into there, and then it ties into that wire harness here. We have our secondary sensor. I believe this is going to be the cam position sensor right here. I do need to find the bolt. That looks like a little 10 millimeter short bolt. Put that in there. And that's pretty much it for the wiring on the front timing cover. So as you can see, the LS install tool does fit on the LT crank. I'm not sure about the depth. I don't know if that's correct, but you know, it is what it is. And we could at least use it as a guide. And then the other thing is we're gonna have to plug the cover into this oil pump plug right there. And I think that should be about it. Now I do actually have a LS oil pan kind of flat bottom install tool. Basically it acts as the front lip of the oil pan. I'm gonna go grab that. I don't know if it'll work on the LT. If it does, cool. If it doesn't, because basically what that would allow us to do, we'd actually be able to install the timing cover permanently. I'm just not sure if it's gonna fit. Otherwise, you know, I'm not really 100% positive of putting all the goop that we showed you earlier onto the cover and installing it permanently. I have this LS wet sump oil pan guide, kind of like we were just talking about. And yeah, that isn't gonna fit. I flipped it both ways, and unfortunately it's basically hitting the LT oil pump from K-Tech. I mean, it's not to be totally surprised, but. So that's no dice for this tool, which kind of sucks, but it is what it is. Let's go ahead and grab the front cover, grab that seal, and see if we can get that to work. So we've pretty much finished installing the front cover again. This is still for mock-up. Yeah, so see, we did have the alignment tool in here, and it is pretty flat. I don't know how flat that is supposed to be. So we might wait to do the final install until I get an oil pan and I can have that sitting flat against the oil pan. That way we know this thing is truly aligned, because right now it's in there, but you know, again, the tolerances between LS and LT, I just don't know if they're exactly the same. But and then over here, your oil pump, this will plug in to right here. So that's pretty much how that's gonna work. All right, so we got the ARP bolt back installed. And actually, this is the first time I've turned this over in my own shop. So yeah, it's spinning without any major issue. And yeah, cool. So that's pretty much gonna be it for the front timing cover in this mock-up stage. You know, we're not gonna do the permanent install until we get that oil pan like we said. But there is one thing we can do. There is a freeze plug over here. It's right here, and we're gonna pop that out because that little box that we showed you earlier didn't really reveal what it is. It is the heating element for a block heater. You guys will remember that we did the block heater install over on Silverado. Well, we're gonna have that same kit installed onto the LT4. And what this is basically gonna be the heating element that we screw into the side of the block. Part number 125-86687. So this is just going to be the heating element itself. You guys can see, you know, this basically is going to go right into where this freeze plug is. And yeah, so I need to look up what the torque spec was. I don't remember what it is offhand, but basically what we're going to have a block heater on the LT4. It's going to plug in right to where we have it on the L87. And all we're going to have to do is unplug it from the L87 and plug it into the LT4. Now I did think about just using the same heating element from the L87 and swap it over, but Chevrolet basically says it's a one-time use. I'm like, okay, that's fair. So let's go ahead, get this pulled out. And this time with this install, we're not gonna get drenched with coolant. I'm actually on top of it. I'm not under my back with like 6 extensions trying to reach this thing. So this literally is the best opportunity for us to go ahead and install this. So, all right, so we got the factory freeze plug popped out. You're gonna need a socket size. It says HW17. I'm guessing that's a hex wide 17, something like that. The Duralast part number is 50-502. So we picked this up at AutoZone when we did this swap initially on the L87. And hey, have a socket I have used twice. So, you know, here's that wide socket. Let's go ahead and grab the new socket, and again, I need to Google that torque spec. All right, guys, like we said in the initial install video, be careful with this. This is a main freeze plug for the car, and you know, if you screw this up, you could potentially ruin the block. So what's funny is I Googled this. I just typed in L87 freeze plug torque spec. My video came up and actually fast forwarded right to where I was looking. So this block heating element torques down to 37 foot-pounds. So we set our torque wrench to that. And yeah, we're just gonna go ahead and tighten this down. Now, the heating element does have thread sealant on it, so you should be good just to install it. There you go, you guys heard that click twice. It's torqued and it's tight against the block. So unfortunately, I think that's all we're gonna be able to do on the LT4 for today. It's just kind of, you know, running that wiring, cleaning up the sensors and stuff, and installing the heating element. Everything else, I'm kind of waiting for parts. Oh, speaking of parts, something did come in. I'd spoken about this in a previous video, and what came in was basically a set of LT4 supercharger bolts from ARP. This is a brand new kit. Man, I think it was called GMS Motorsports, something like that. I think I said in a previous video, they focus on the 6th gen Camaro, the ZL1, 1LE, all that stuff. So they came out with a LT4 supercharger bolt kit specifically for the blower, because the way the factory Chevrolet bolts are for the LT4 supercharger is they're torque to yield, so you're only supposed to use it once. I'm sure guys use them over and over again, but you know, this being a stronger bolt, they will be fully reusable if we ever have to pull the blower off. So yeah, that was the quick update. I ordered this back, man, I think like Black Friday, and so that was in November. It is now pretty much mid-January, and so those finally came in. But yeah, I think that's gonna be it for the LT4. For the next Corvette, we'll be installing a piece that I've had for probably a couple months sitting here, and really all I needed to do was take the wheels off the car to go ahead and get this installed. And this is going to be from Shane Greenwood, and that's actually the guy that I got the fender vents as well as the fog delete plugs. So Shane 3D printed those. He cut these out of steel or aluminum, one of the two. And yeah, kind of like I said, he's the guy that we got the updated fender vents for our oil coolers. I don't know if you've seen that video. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. I can't remember, but and what they are, they're basically going to be a pair of tie rod heat shields that are going to go behind our carbon ceramic disc. And what that is, it's basically going to be a heat shield so that you don't melt the factory tie rods. Now, with that being said, we do have a completely aftermarket set from After Dark Speed. I hope these fit, and the other thing is, I'll be honest guys, these actually might not be needed. And the reason I'm kind of saying that is because the After Dark Speed kit uses heim joints and billet aluminum. There's not really any rubber parts in it, so they might not be needed, but I think there might be some Delrin bushings inside of those heim joints. So maybe it's needed, maybe it's not. It was fairly cheap. I think I got these for like 20 bucks shipped, and they shouldn't take that long to install. So, all right, so here are the tie rod shields for a C5 and C6. And I believe Shane said if you just cut off this little lip, it'll also fit the C7. So if we ever did upgrade to C7 spindles, I don't know why we would. Some people are doing that. You could run these on a C7 as well. Yeah, pretty simple install. Take the wheel off, pop off the nut on the top of the tie rod, put this back on, and torque it back down. That's pretty much about it. All right, guys, you can see we got the wheel off. I also ended up taking the cotter pin out of the top of the After Dark Speed kit. So by getting that cotter pin removed, that's basically going to allow us to go ahead and get our heat shield put in here. And as you guys can see, this looks like it's going to fit without any major issue. We just got to go ahead and get this castle nut off. And I don't know about that lower washer. I don't know if we're going to do the bracket, the washer, then the castle nut. I don't know. I'm not really sure if that really matters at this point. Or do we just replace the washer with the bracket? That might end up what we end up doing, because I'm just not sure the height on this castle nut with that cotter pin that was in there, because you know they do have to align, and if this doesn't sit in there just right, this isn't going to work. So, all right, guys, looking at the shield compared to the washer, they are almost exactly the same width. So I'm just going to go ahead and skip the washer, and we're going to use the shield as a washer, because like I said, I'm just not sure on the height on this thing, and I want to make sure that we could put a cotter pin back in this and that it will line up properly. So just for your information, this is a 19mm nut. Torque down to 22 foot-pounds, and then you put your cotter pin. You guys can see we've got a mangled up cotter pin, but I do want to show you that we did line it up, and with a new cotter pin that should slide in. So yeah, with a quick simple install, we got the heat shield for the tie rod on here, and actually Shane does sell something for the lower ball joints, but I'm just not sure how bad of an install that is going to be. If you have to take the ball joint back off the car, I'm really not interested in doing that, to be honest. But, you know, that might be something we look into the future. And I did have one more quick update. This is the stock C6 ZR1 ducting for the brakes. You know, basically you're trying to kick air into here and duct it up into, you know, near where the rotors are. Well, the C7 ZR1 and the C7 Z06 actually had, I'm calling it a track pack. I don't know what the Chevrolet Performance name of it was, but basically it's all like formed plastic dividers and airfoils that basically go around the spindle as well as the lower control arm. And it basically has an air duct going up top and an air duct going on bottom. I'll have a picture of it here. Shane actually has that similar kit installed on his car, but he kind of took a used set and put it and adapted to what he needs. There's actually a guy out there, I think it's like Syndicate Engineering or Syndicate Motorsports, something like that. And he basically takes the stock C7 ZR1, that track pack air duct, but they basically sell a conversion piece for down here. I think it's down up front by the control arm. They actually sell a little conversion piece that allows you to have the C7 kit fully working with your C6 control arms. And why that's important is because I've actually had that kit sitting in a bag over on the shelf for like the last 2.5 years. Now, I don't know if it will allow us to run the FOT sway bar. That was kind of my big holdup when I tried to mock it up in the first place. I don't know if we'll be able to run these sway bars. If we can't, I don't know. I don't know. Do we replace the sway bars to put on that ducting kit, or do we kind of just modify our ducting kit to work with the sway bar? I don't know. I mean, we've already modified the C7 ZR1 parts right here. You guys will remember that I had to cut like 1 inch off of it. We've already had to modify one ducting kit. I don't know if it's worth trying to modify the second kit. Or we replaced the sway bar with a set from After Dark Speed. Kind of like I said, Ryan, I think, has his own spec on sway bars. That might be something that we end up doing, because I've had issues with these sway bars in the past, particularly the end links here. They like to pop off, and I don't think this side has one. No, it doesn't. But some of them, I've actually had to replace the bolt, put a longer bolt in it, and then put a nut on the other end just to clamp this down to the spline sway bar. That way everything fits without it rattling off, because I've had them come loose multiple times. It's been a long time since it's happened, but you know, they do pop loose. All right, guys, the last part of this video is going to be doing something with the torque tube. I know I'd mentioned earlier in the video that we might try to fabricate some piece of metal, push it up there, hold it up there. Honestly, guys, I started thinking about it. I'm just gonna put the torque tube plate back in. I'll put like 6 bolts in the front, 6 bolts in the back. And when it comes time to go ahead and do the bell housing and put the motor back in, undo those, 10, 12 bolts, whatever it's gonna be. And that way we can have the torque tube sitting where it needs to be, and we can get this jack stand and piece of wood out from underneath the car. Plus, like I said, I need to get a couple items down from the attic. So that should make it roller. All we gotta do is put it in neutral with that TIC Performance shifter, and we should be good to go. All right, you can see the torque tube is back in place. The jack stand and the piece of wood are no longer underneath it. I simply put that torque tube plate back in place like I said. I think we ended up putting like 20 bolts back in it total, so 5 up front on each side, 5 in the back on each side. So that should hold that without any major issue, and we're pretty much ready to go ahead, get the Corvette off the lift, push back out, and get our stuff from the attic, kind of like we said earlier in the video. And you guys can see I am dressed in heavier clothing today because it is supposed to snow. It's been raining for like the last 10 hours, and I think it's 36 degrees, so it's trying to snow. So I don't know if this afternoon we'll be able to go get a ZR2 video out in the snow. I kind of doubt it, because I've had that truck for coming up on 3 years, still hasn't seen any snow or at least any amount of snow that we could go play in. Yeah, so yeah, if that happens, that'll be another video. But yeah, today's video, kind of like I said, was just a bunch of random little projects, and I didn't feel like it would be a good update to any of the other videos, so we just kind of threw it all together and gave you guys another update around the shop. LT4 updates, shop updates, Corvette updates. What better can you ask for? So yeah, that's gonna be it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, hit that like button. If you want to see more updates on the Corvette, we are still working on it. I don't really have any updates on the motor just yet, so waiting on a couple things for that. But yeah, once we get that thing back, we could get it back in the car, get it tuned, get it fired up, and try to see all the electrical issues we're gonna have. Because guys, I'm assuming we're gonna have a bunch of problems because, like I said, we swapped the harness to the 2011 out of that dry sump Grand Sport, but the modules are all from different cars. I'm sure we're gonna have to program all that stuff, and yeah. So if you want to see that update, hit that subscribe button, turn on your bell notifications. And if you guys want to help support the channel, check out all the links down below. I'll try to get you some links for some of the stuff that we used today. And if not, part numbers, all that, that'll all be down below. Also, check out our website, BonecrrusherSS.com. Like we've said in the last, I don't know, 10 videos. A lot of C6 used parts on there, merch, stickers, t-shirts, all that stuff, and that's going to be it. Thanks, guys. Have a great one.